All right, guys, I wanted to throw my hat in the ring. Some people have brought up that they missed when I used to do videos about things like anime or comic books and whatnot. Now, I'm not saying I want to start doing that, full time because I got enough on my plate with these other videos for the Tyler Perry shows and whatnot because we're gearing up. Tonight we got what? House of Pain Assisted Living. The Haves and the Have-Nots is back on the air for the next couple of months. And allegedly, the Overland Sisters are about to return next month. It's hard to, it's already September. So I'll probably touch base, not to mention a lot of these comic book shows are on break for now anyway. I say shows instead of movies because I feel like we're going to get at least the Disney Plus shows, or at least one of them, before we'll get the next MCU film. I do believe Black Widow, have they decided what they're going to do for that? Have they opted to do a streaming service, or are they going to hold out to see when theaters open? I forgot. But more to the point of this video, make sure you hit that subscribe button if you are new and hit the bell notification icon. That way you don't miss out when I post new content. Follow me on social media. Links are in the description below. And with that being said, when you hit the bell, select all because, you want to be notified. We're talking well, not necessarily Chadwick himself, rest his soul, but more so like fan reaction to not recasting him. Now, here's the thing with this, and this is just my 2 cents, and I feel like I can speak on this because I do watch superhero movies and whatnot, and I read comics. Yeah, recasting T'Challa wouldn't be the best move given the fact that, the actor just passed. There's a difference between recasting due to a death versus recasting due to behind the scenes situations with the actor. Let's say in a remember in the MCU you already had a major recast at the damn beginning. What was it? From switching to Don Cheadle from Terrence Howard due to behind the scenes drama. Now, it's been I don't think Robert Downey has ever spoken out about it, but we know Terrence Howard still holds the grudge because apparently he got shafted in terms of money because, believe it or not, I know this is hard to believe, but go back to the first Iron Man, the first MCU film. Terrence Howard was paid more than Robert Downey Jr. because at that time, RDJ was a troublesome actor. People didn't really want to work with him. He had a track record, a prison record and everything. He was into drugs and whatnot. But Jon Favreau was like, look, this is the guy. So they took a chance. And I know it's hard to believe now in 2020 where they were at in 2007, 2008, whenever Iron Man came out. Yeah, that's why he didn't get paid that much. But apparently there were some things that happened behind the scenes, like with I don't want to say Jon Favreau, but the person behind the MCU as a whole. Like there have just been so many stories and whatnot, but apparently it had to do with money. RDJ turned his back on Terrence. Terrence tried to call him a lot of times to try to get back up, but no, he was dropped. Don Cheadle was put in. Not to mention Edward Norton, who was the Incredible Hulk, Bruce Banner. He got switched with Mark Ruffalo. So yes, I believe that was due to creative differences. He was typically an actor who was always involved with the scripts or whatever projects he was working on. But in the MCU's case, they really weren't for that. So he dropped and then he got replaced. But in this situation, we have, a person, an actor and a character who died. Chadwick Boseman. So at this point, fans you shouldn't recast him now. In terms of the MCU, it was hinted at Far From Home, but it wasn't confirmed because Mysterio's story was fake, that there is a multiverse. So technically speaking, if the multiverse was already present in the MCU, you could have another T'Challa, but it didn't have to be Chadwick. It could be someone else it could be another actor portraying T'Challa from a different universe. That would make sense. But again, it's feelings versus reality versus business and everything else in between. It's just because a person dies, it doesn't mean the character dies with them, But in the comic lore, and again, let's bring up the comics, T'Challa, obviously, and even in the movies, he wasn't the only Black Panther. His father was a former Black Panther. And then if you go even further into comic books themselves, his uncle was a Black Panther, and the Black Panther, and hell, in the movies, just go when he goes to the spiritual plane and whatnot. all the kings and panthers of Wakanda's past, there's more than one Black Panther. Well, not necessarily more than one at a time, but you know what I mean. So Shuri in the comics becomes Black Panther. Not to mention, when you look at it from the MCU lore, think about it. T'Challa was dusted. Well, half of the nation of Wakanda and all the tribes, half of them were all dusted, and then they came back 5 years later. Things will not be the same. I mean, sure, T'Challa's back, but think of it this way. Just because he was brought back, that doesn't necessarily mean that he was instantly brought back to power. I mean, at the end of Endgame, there's like this huge celebration, and it seems like everything is back to normal, but in reality, it's not. 5 years is a long time. Who knows if there were other nations or, whatnot trying to attack Wakanda. Remember, at the end of a Black Panther, T'Challa was the one who chose to open the borders and the barriers. And then look at what happened in Infinity War. You have outsiders come in, and then that led to the attack of Wakanda from Thanos' crew. And then that left a lot of damage and whatnot. So I wonder if there are people in the nation of Wakanda who question T'Challa's rule. So me and a few friends, and looking at online stuff, we were thinking like maybe at the beginning of Black Panther 2, we could have a funeral for T'Challa. Like, what if he's killed on screen? Like, obviously we won't have Chadwick there unless they decide to digitize, or I don't know how they would do it, but they could have it where he's in the Black Panther suit and he gets killed that way. He's like, T'Challa is killed on screen. So, but not Chadwick, because unfortunately he had already passed. So that's what they could possibly do. And then the question of Black Panther 2 is, who's going to lead Wakanda now, Because like I said, 5 years, and then all these people coming back, there's going to be a power struggle, a power vacuum. Because there was the nod to Namor from Atlantis in the Endgame movie where, there was an earthquake underwater. And in the comics, Namor and Panther go at it a few times. So what if the whole plot of the movie is like T'Challa's killed, and then it's assumed it's Namor, but it really wasn't Namor? And then as a result, maybe Shuri or whoever else becomes the new Black Panther, the new ruler of Wakanda. So unfortunately, yes, Chadwick is gone, but at the same time, that doesn't mean Black Panther's gone, because Black Panther wasn't a person. Black Panther was a symbol, and somebody needs to carry on the mantle. Because, I would have loved to seen Chadwick's character T'Challa in the second Black Panther film, but unfortunately, that isn't the case. So in terms of recasting T'Challa, I don't think that needs to happen right away. I don't think it needs to happen at all. Like I said, potential multiverse stuff, yeah. But in terms of the main continuity MCU, no. But just because a person dies doesn't mean the character dies with them. Like Heath Ledger, his Joker from the Dark Knight trilogy, he's died in real life. But then after that, it doesn't really help that the first live action Joker, to my knowledge, I don't know, what was it? It was Suicide Squad. I know that, what's his name? Jerome from Gotham was a Joker as well. So I think that, well, in terms of live action film, not TV, the Joker is a cash cow for DC Comics, right up there with Batman. So just because Heath Ledger was, died, that doesn't mean that Joker is never going to be shown again in movies. That's just not feasible. Joker is a different property than a person. You know what I mean? Same with Black Panther. Black Panther is a comic book character that's a symbol that represents a lot. So when one person actor is unable to play the role anymore, it's going to be passed on. So like when Christopher Reeves, when he died, did that mean there was never going to be another Superman again? No, absolutely not. Look at all the Supermans we've had since then. Then you look at Batman, Adam West passed. Does that mean there shouldn't have been another Batman after he passed away? No, we got Robert Pattinson playing the Batman in the upcoming movie, which honestly looks a hell of a lot better than I thought it would after watching that trailer a couple weeks ago during DC Fandom. So let me just put it this way. Recasting does happen. I think another good example here, maybe not recasting, but for anyone, maybe you don't watch it, but maybe you have kids, younger relatives, siblings, Disney's Descendants film, rest his soul, Cameron Boyce. He played Carlos Cruella de Vil's son in the Descendants franchise. Most people probably know him. He was, I forgot his name, but his character on the show Jesse. He was one of the kids on that show Jesse. Basically, he passed, and people were like, oh, are they going to what's going to happen to the descendants now? Because I know like Dove Cameron, Sophia Carson, and like Boo Boo Stewart, they were the other three main characters of the Descendants franchise. And I was saying to a friend of mine, I'm like, yeah, it sucks that Cameron passed, but there's no way in hell that Descendants is not going to do something in the future, because that is such a huge cast. Like, I'm not saying Carlos, the character, is going to be recast, but Descendants is such a large franchise. One person's death is not going. I know that sounds bad, but I'm looking at, and look, please, I'm not trying to sound insensitive, but looking at the business aspect of it, like for example, the MCU. Let's say if something happened to Tom Holland and there's no more Peter Parker Spider-Man, do you think the MCU is going to stop? No, because again, you could bring in Miles Morales. Again, you don't have to recast Peter Parker, because honestly, Tom Holland's Peter Parker is like one of my well, honestly, I think that Tobey Maguire is probably my favorite Peter Parker, whereas Tom Holland is probably my favorite Spider-Man. No shade to Andrew Garfield, but it was a hot mess with those movies, the Amazing Spider-Mans. But yeah, it's like the reality of whenever a person dies, like it's kind of like when Kobe died, and like, well, people were petitioning to change the mascot of the NBA symbol to Kobe and whatnot, and I'm like, that's a nice gesture, but at the same time, that shouldn't happen, even for like a Michael Jordan or Shaq, because that symbol represents the entirety of the NBA. The NBA is more than one person. Like, it would be different if they temporarily changed it to like Kobe to reflect the colors and everything that he wore on the court, gold and purple, but then they changed it back. That's one thing, like as a tribute. But to go ahead and change the entirety of the NBA symbol to reflect one person permanently, I don't think that's a good call. So again, T'Challa is not going to be recast anytime soon. At least I don't think so, because I don't think it should happen. Black Panther has had more than one wielder. It's like if, again, Batman. It's like if Batman, well, Ben Affleck is temporarily going to take the role back for the Flashpoint movie coming up, but then Michael Keaton, because if you don't read comics, Flashpoint involves different timelines, Flash traveling around, Speed Force and all that good stuff. So I believe Michael Keaton's coming back, Ben Affleck's coming back, not necessarily suiting up as Batman, but they will be in the film as different versions of Batman. But I think I also read about, if the Flash movie does well, Ben might actually come back. So let's say for simplicity's sake, Ben Affleck, we know Robert's coming out with the movie, but let's just focus on Ben Affleck. Okay, let's say Ben Affleck dies in real life. Is no one else supposed to be playing Batman anymore? Is DC going to let Batman die? No, because Batman is a cash cow. So they will bring in someone else and play a different version of the character. So T'Challa, as we know him, is gone. But that doesn't mean a new person won't step up to be Black Panther. But let's say 50 years in the future, if they decide to do another Black Panther, do you really think they're not going to have T'Challa there? Let's be real here. So that's really all I got to say on the matter. Black Panther will continue. In terms of how the MCU is going to deal with Chadwick's passing and how that's going to be reflected in the movie, we'll just have to wait and see. But I think the best thing is to have him, quote unquote, die on screen in battle, as opposed to an off-screen death, because that really wouldn't make a lot of sense. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. If you liked the video, would you like me to do more videos like this on like comic book related stuff? Because the reason I stopped, there were two reasons, well, technically three, that I stopped doing these kind of videos. Number one, on this particular channel, the videos never really did good. So then that leads to number two, I would do the videos on my one of my other channels, which, due to the whole COPPA thing, I decided not to post on there anymore. I had too many like anime stuff related, because I was in fear that might be considered kid content and then it'll get flagged. But then actually that's not the case anymore. So maybe I'll do more in the future. But just let me know, do you like this kind of content? Do you want me to talk about comics and anime and stuff like that anymore? Like, they won't be at the forefront of the channel. Like, the soaps I review will still be the main priority. But I won't mind, dipping my toe in the water of these things, because if you've made it all the way through the video, then I actually like this stuff a lot. Because I know in some of my have and have not or Tyler Perry videos, I might say, hey, here's a comic book reference. I know there might be one person who's like, oh, with the comic book reference, but other people like, oh, I didn't know you like that stuff. So again, let me know in the comments. Do you want me to do more stuff like this in the future? If so, please comment. I'd appreciate it. But overall, let me know your thoughts on the subject below. And would you like to donate to the channel? If so, hit me up on Cash App, PayPal, or you can just join Patreon for as little as $1 a month.